Coming up, there's a new book about overcoming the feeling of being a victim. We'll meet two youth in the Lakota Art Fellowship, plus a year in review for Native politics. I am Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews plus headlines from the ICT newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona PBS is proud to support Indian Country Today. For 6 decades, we've provided television programs and now digital content. But we go beyond that, sending outreach teams across Arizona, offering workshops in language and literacy, family engagement and community outreach, and supporting tribal communities with early learning and school readiness resources. Join us at azpbs.org.
This is the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez.
Ku'ati Hopa. Thank you for joining us. We start our newscast in Massachusetts, where a tribal leader is facing criminal charges. Mashpee Wampanoag Chairman Brian Whedon allegedly broke into and entered a local museum and stole 4 cultural items. According to the police records from the Plymouth Police Department, the incident happened on November 7th. Museum surveillance videos captured a dark SUV in the museum parking lot before the items were taken. It was after the incident that museum staff, a police officer, and special detective identified Whedon as the driver. This story was broken by Native News Online. The cultural items came from the Native American exhibit at the Plymouth Patuxent Museums and are valued at $10,000. The items have since been returned. ICT has reached out to the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe for comment, and we have not heard back as of Wednesday morning. The bodies of more than 80 Native American children are buried at the former Genoa Indian Industrial School in central Nebraska. But for decades, the location of the student cemetery has been a mystery until now. ICT senior producer Vincent Moniz reports.
Lost over time after the school closed in 1931. Memories faded of the Genoa Indian Industrial School in Nebraska, along with the graves of the indigenous children forced to attend. But the mystery of where those 80 Native kids are may soon be solved. This is thanks to efforts by researchers who pored over century-old documents and the use of ground-penetrating radar. Ponca citizen and executive director of the state's Indian Affairs Commission, Judy Gayashkabas, weighed in.
And these children were, in my opinion, disrespected, and they were throwaway children that nobody talked about. They were hidden, buried under the ground.
The search comes while the federal government continues its first ever comprehensive examination of the national Native boarding school system. These more than 400 schools and privately funded institutions were part of an attempt to forcibly assimilate indigenous people into white culture. By separating children forcibly or by coercion from their families, the U.S. government and Christian organizations cut the children off from their heritage. If the Genoa graves are found, one archaeologist working for the state says the next step will be to involve Native nations.
Ultimately, if these results are positive, there were 40 plus tribal nations had students attending Genoa from all over the country. If we come up with some results that suggest, this is the cemetery location, then the hope would be to invite all those 40 plus tribes to a conversation about next steps and what we would like to do.
One thing is for certain. If and when the graves of these 80 indigenous children are found, they will be picked up and brought home in the loving arms of their relatives. In Bismarck, North Dakota, Vincent Moniz, ICT News.
A well-known chief tribal judge in Michigan has been appointed for a big position. Last week, Governor Gretchen Whitmer appointed Allie Greenleaf Maldonado to sit on the Michigan Court of Appeals. There has never been an Indigenous person in that position before. Maldonado served as chief judge of the Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians for the last 10 years. The announcement of her new position earned praise from the National Congress of American Indians, the Native American Rights Fund, and the National Native American Bar Association. Maldonado called her appointment a moment of importance. She will begin her new position in January of 2023. Well, a PBS kids show about Alaska Native lifestyles has been nominated for a national TV award. The animated show, Molly of Denali, was nominated for 2 Emmys. That was for Outstanding Preschool Animated Series and Outstanding Writing for a Preschool Animated Program. The show follows the adventures of a 10-year-old Athabascan girl showcasing her Alaska Native way of life. While the show didn't ultimately win an award, Gwich'in creative producer of the show, Princess Johnson, took to Twitter to share her gratitude. Johnson says even though Molly of Denali lost, they've already, quote, won the hearts of children and families across our beautiful Mother Earth. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. For more than 30 years, Denise Alley has worked as a motivational speaker and staff trainer. Some of her clients include Disneyland Park, Motorola, the Indian Health Service, and hundreds of tribes across the country. She's put all that experience into her new book called Native Soul, Heart, and Healing. Denise joins us today to tell us more about her career and her new book. Welcome, Denise.
Yes, good morning.
So give us a quick rundown of what your new book is about.
Well, I have worked a lot on healing myself. Growing up feeling like I maybe wasn't quite good enough, or comparing myself against, quote, the blonde, not having a lot of encouragement through grandparents, excuse me, and growing up feeling less than. And so I really have worked on spiritual healing, energy healing, therapy, those kinds of things. But this is really a fun book with great stories on forgiveness. And when I say victim, overcoming victimhood, ways and blessings and stories, I really refer to victim as being someone who complains and whines a lot. So even after writing this book, I might still complain, but maybe not as long. So then I also share ways of healing and focusing on blessings and gratitude. You know, we can't change the past, but we can be grounded in the moment with more peace. And I talk about that inner peace that we all kind of desire. I know I do, and end with prayer and renewing. So it's really kind of a fun collage of stories and ways and techniques to do that.
I would love to give our viewers an example of some of the stories that you're talking about, some of the healing examples that you're citing. Is there anything in particular you'd like to share?
Well, yes, I was on my way to go purchase my first home, and I was really scared. I was feeling really inferior and kind of scared about the whole process. And I remember praying that morning, okay, God, angels, all y'all up there, please let me know you're here with me. And I remember driving over to the loan office, and there was a homeless man who was smoking a cigarette and he didn't move. And then I went in and met with the people, and they were very kind and gracious. It wasn't too scary. I come walking out, and this homeless man stands up, puffing a cigarette, looks right at me, wouldn't move, so I couldn't go around him, and he goes, everything's gonna be all right. And I said, what? Are you talking to me? And he goes, everything's gonna be all right. And I thought, what a message. And I looked into his eyes, and they were like sparkling, and I said, are you an angel? And he goes, no, but I wish I was. And to me, it was a great message that when we ask, we are truly supported, and people will show up in our lives, or we'll get a message that we are loved and supported. And yes, I was able to purchase my home. And that's just one story of prayer and asking, and then seeing, what shows up. I truly believe that we are loved and supported from on high and those people around us. You just never know who's going to show up.
Denise, you are a direct descendant of Tecumseh, the Shawnee leader. How do you think that his style of leadership has influenced yours?
Well, Tecumseh believed in uniting the tribes. And I think back then, the tribes were like not connected. I mean, surely there was no Zoom, no cell. I mean, they just all, were doing the best they could. But he believed in the unity of tribes. And even though he was killed in battle, I think I carry that on, or I think, my relatives and I would carry on unity of people, unity of one in heart and one in gratitude, despite what may be going on around us. Yes, there has been tragedy and things going on. I talk about a little bit about that in the book. And one real quick example, I remember back when Red Lake, Minnesota, back in the 90s or the early 2000s, when that tragedy happened. That was before everything was going on now of more shootings. And I was at the Gathering of Nations powwow, and the Miss Indian World, Elena Smith, brought children from the Head Start, and they all danced. And to me, that was a moment of healing and dancing, that we can make it through, and we are making it through. So I think unity is one of the main messages.
Speaking about dancing, your father, Denise Alley, had a well-known dance group called the Wisdom Indian Dancers. What was it like to grow up dancing in front of large crowds?
Well, yes, we still do dance. We are still the Wisdom Indian Dancers. And my father believed wherever we were at, my brothers would have their bustles or feathers and say, okay, everybody, let's just get ready to do a show. I remember being in the middle of Scottsdale downtown, and we heard that Men at Work were there, or a rock group from Australia. And they loved us. They truly did love us. And it was just fun just to do that. My dad would have just this keen sense of people around us. And he had a chance to meet Willie Nelson back in Las Vegas back in the day. And he heard he was there performing and dressed us all up. We all went downtown to the Caesar's Palace and went up to the bottom of the elevator and said to the man, we're here to meet Willie Nelson. He's like, okay. And he goes up and he goes, hey, Willie, there's a bunch of Indians down there that want to come up and say hello. And he goes, send them up. So we just kind of grew up. We've been a part of Farm Aid for over 30 years, and we've done some work with Neil Young and for a benefit concert. So it's just something we grew up with. My dad always said to share our culture and our song and our dances with love and with pride.
Well, yeah. Denise Alley, thank you for joining us today to tell us about your new book, Native Soul, Heart, and Healing.
Thank you.
For the third year, the Cheyenne River Youth Project is offering fellowships to students to help them improve their arts and communication skills. This year, there are 4 youth in the Lakota Art Fellowship, including Julia Lesmeister, Journey Gray, Haylee Wells, and Jayson Little Wounded. ICT senior correspondent Patty Tholahongva spoke to a few of them in the program about what they think.
This program offers several special features to help the young artists develop their art. And joining us today is Haylee Wells and Journey Gray. Hi, ladies. Journey, tell us about the art that you create.
I do photography, so I like taking pictures of the nature mostly, and I like taking pictures of people. So it's really fun because you can get really creative with the ways you frame things and the way that you see things. Like you get the emotion in any pictures you take. So it's really nice. I like it.
And how long have you been shooting photos?
I've been shooting photos since I was around 10 years old.
And what about you, Haylee? What kind of art do you do?
I like to draw here and there, but I'd like to be like a tattoo artist when I'm older. Well, since I was like young, I really liked to draw, sketch, and paint. I didn't really know tattooing was a thing until I'd say until I was like 10. But
I picked photography because I feel like it's a good way for me to express my love for art. For me, like photography with my photos and how I picture things, it shows like all the emotion that I'm trying to let out in the photo. Um, I really, I really enjoy photography rather than any other art form. Like I do drawing and stuff, but photography has just always been something I've loved since I was little.
Haylee, you actually had a chance to go to Minneapolis and kind of have an adventure there and explore some art and meet some artists. Can you tell us about that trip?
So we visited a few places like the Art and Design College. We visited a tattoo artist, a clothing designer. I learned to like stick to doing my own thing and just stay, dedicated to it, I guess.
For you, Journey, what do you expect or hope to get out of this fellowship?
I'm hoping to get more experience with photography and different ways to like express my artwork. I want to be in like more bigger areas with the stuff I'm working in. So I'm hoping to like learn more from it and eventually like start off with my career of photography.
And for you, Haylee, what do you hope to get out of this fellowship?
I hope to become a tattoo artist and to be able to turn out like the people I visited out in Minneapolis, like to start my own tattoo shop and yeah.
And have you traveled much outside of Eagle Butte, Journey?
I've traveled a little bit, but I rarely ever go out of town or out of South Dakota in general. So,
And do you think your art would take you out to other states or maybe even another part of the world?
yeah, I do hope it would. I want to like explore new places because I know there's a lot of other places that are really beautiful, and I would love to take pictures of many or more places.
And do you have a place that you definitely like, a destination you want to go visit?
I heard Utah had a lot of like pretty mountains and stuff, and I wanted to visit a couple places down in Arizona and Los Angeles. I would love to take pictures of the nature out there. I heard it's really, really pretty.
I've heard of the Art Fellowship. It helps you like pursue your dreams in art, like what you want to do. That's why we went on that trip to see the college and to see inspire like people that do the same thing as we do want to do. And yeah.
Okay, did you want to add anything to that, Journey?
Well, that's a really good point because this fellowship for me is really helping me with my photography. It's really like making me want to open up more into my career that I want to have. So it's really helping me, and all the help that they're giving me, it's really inspiring me to go do my own artwork out there instead of giving up, because like it can get hard. You will want to give up, but it's really nice whenever someone's there for you.
Well, ladies, thank you again for joining us today. Both Haylee Wells and Journey Gray, thank you so much and best of luck in your art careers and in the fellowship program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ICT regular contributor John Tahsuda is joining us today from Trujillo, Peru. While he might not be in the United States, he knows U.S. politics and Native politics very well. He's here to give us a year in review. Hi there, John.
How you doing? Hello from down south of the equator.
Hello to you. I would just want to jump in here. Let's start off with the first half of the year, January to June. What stands out to you most in terms of Native policy there?
What will be interesting to see is what happens at the end of this year. We have a lame duck session. There's likely to be one big omnibus bill left. Sounds like the leaders, both parties on both sides of the hill, have reached an understanding on some of the top line numbers, which allows them to fill in below that. But important to Indian country will be what other items that are not related to appropriations are going to be allowed to be attached to that legislation. There's a number of bills that have been held up for a long time. If they're allowed to go forward and put in as a package into that, that would clear the decks a little bit, at least of the legislation that's been hanging around for about a year now in the Congress. If that doesn't pass, then there will be a big push. I'm going to guess there'll be support, probably bipartisan and bicameral support, but to clear the decks of those bills. A number of those are important to tribes, and not necessarily at a national level, but to the tribes that have specific issues that they're pursuing. Those bills are important. They can clear the deck and then move on to tribal legislation for the next Congress. Hopefully that would happen early, maybe by February. They could get that cleared out if they haven't passed in this lame duck session.
John, I'm really curious, given that you're a Republican, how you would sort of rate President Joe Biden's performance, specifically on Native issues in 2022. If you had to give him a letter grade, what would you say?
Well, I think, sort of like you take multiple classes in college. I think there are multiple, things that they're working on that you would have to look at. They've worked hard and built on some policies from the past on consultation. The recent summit that occurred, had a lot of high-level involvement. So I would probably give them an A- or even an A as far as that kind of outreach. And then, they have been able to put forward a number of proposals, including changes to the feed of trust regulations and some other ideas that they have. I would give them again probably an A- in getting that forward and getting it started. Those things take some time, and they have worked through some tribal consultation that takes time. To put those ideas together and then mash them up with the ideas that the federal officials have, and get that out and get started on the regulatory process for that. So, they basically have 2 more years left in this term, and I think they've given themselves a good amount of time to try to accomplish those regulatory objectives that they're pushing. So I would give them a good grade on that as well. Some of the others remain to be seen, I think. Again, coming out of the summit, there's always a lot of talk and ideas, but whether those can be implemented, and really in some ways, can those ideas be kind of coalesced into solid projects, solid ideas that can be implemented by the administration. So that remains to be seen. At this point, I'd probably give them a lower grade, maybe a B on those, because it appeared to me that they weren't as well prepared as they could have been going into the summit to have their own ideas put forward, but they were sort of waiting for Indian country to present their ideas. Of course, tribal leaders have their ideas and they presented them, but it's to get things done in a reasonable time frame. It's helpful for the administration to put their own ideas out as well at the same time, so you can push those together to accomplish regulatory and policy objectives. And I just didn't feel like they were that well prepared for it at this point.
In just a few weeks, we know that Republican Congressman Mark Wayne Mullen will soon become officially a U.S. Senator. What do you know about that so far?
Well, I'm very excited. So, I'm an expat Okie. Great to have, a new Indian senator from Oklahoma. We grew up, we used to call it Indian territory, Indian country. Oklahoma was, Indian land, the land of the red man. So, the fact that we have a tribal citizen who's been elected and will be sworn in on January 3rd is really exciting to me. I'm also, as a Republican, I think it's exciting to have a Republican senator who's Native to be sitting in that body. Individual senators, the Senate is a unique institution. Individual senators, if they're smart, they can pick opportunities to really push forward ideas that they propose or that their constituents propose in a way that individual members in the House of Representatives don't quite have that opportunity. So I'm very excited about it. Mark Wayne worked really hard in the House to learn a lot of the Indian issues as well as Oklahoma issues. And so I think he can now bring those to bear in the Senate. And the experience he gained there, particularly in Indian health issues, he worked really hard on those. I think will be a big benefit to any country at large, and of course, so us in Oklahoma, a huge benefit.
John, we only have a very short time left here, but tell us really quickly why you're in Peru.
Actually, family trip. My wife is Peruvian, and so although she was born in the States, she's an American citizen. But her mom is Peruvian, and so we were coming down just to see some elderly members of the family, actually. And and while we've been down here, speaking of politics, a lot going on down here. President removed, vice president, installed by a Congress, and now, people marching around the country calling for new elections, and so exciting times all over.
Absolutely. Well, John, I hope you eat some great food and hopefully send us some photos. Thanks so much.
I've eaten more than my share of good food, that's for sure. Thank you.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
Sometimes you got to take a stand just because you know you can. Oh, you got to run, you got to run.
The Sand Creek Massacre, the betrayal that changed Cheyenne and Arapaho people forever, focuses on tribal accounts of Colorado's deadliest day. Exhibition details at historycoloradocenter.org.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.